At a power plant located outside the city, several employees celebrate a co-worker's birthday, until suddenly, they see something strange on the surveillance camera. One worker goes to investigate a shadow moving inside the shaft, but shockingly, he gets attacked by an unknown creature. He tries to return to the workplace, but a horde of creatures follows him and starts slaughtering everyone inside the building all at once. And finally, they die. When the sun is obscured by an eclipse, vicious beasts begin to appear all over the world, causing the deaths of millions and the destruction of cities. When the military is sent to confront these creatures during the eclipse, the news refers to it as the Day of Reckoning. This conflict results in the loss of millions of lives and massive resources. However, in the end, all the monsters are wiped out and humanity begins to rebuild. They build protective mechanisms called gates to anticipate if the creatures decide to return. After 15 years, the world seems to return to a normal way of life. There's a man named Dave who is required to enter a vent shaft to remove dead animals. But he's still paid low wages by the company where he works as a janitor. Laura, who works as a teacher at a nearby school, becomes friends with Milton, another teacher who constantly invites her to go on a trip. Despite the fact that she has worked through many challenges and has long been divorced from Dave, she finally accepts Milton's offer today. Meanwhile, their son named Tyler meets up with his girlfriend Maddie, who now feels anxious about the upcoming eclipse. For the last 15 years, several eclipses have occurred, but nothing has happened during those times. Tyler reassures her that there is nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, staff from one of the gates call an officer named Garrett and urge him to come because they have verified that a significant seismic event has occurred and containment operations have been authorized. Garrett arrives at the gate under the impression that this is not a drill. Only after he inspects all systems, an electric box explodes, resulting in the loss of the entire power grid. Dave goes to Laura's house in the city to pick up Tyler, and while the boy plays an FPS game, his parents argue with each other. Laura has not forgiven Dave for failing to support her during the last catastrophe, which happened while she was pregnant with Tyler. It turns out that Dave was not there for her. When Tyler stops them, he is given the chance to go with his father. That night, Dave receives a call from his Uncle Ted. Uncle Ted is convinced that the next day of reckoning will happen tomorrow, and he urges Dave to take his family to a shelter before the eclipse starts. So Dave accepts Uncle Ted's invitation. When Tyler watches the news, he gets upset upon learning that millions of dead fish are found on beaches around the world, especially since it has been 15 years since this sign was last seen. At the same time, the first creature appears at the entrance and quietly walks up the stairs. Laura calls Dave at the same time, informing him that Milton has made a reservation at a shelter and urges Tyler to come back home. During the argument between Dave and Laura, Tyler receives a text from Maddie, asking him to sneak out and stay with her. When Dave searches for Tyler, who has already escaped, he finds a simple note in his room containing his phone number. Despite the fact that the shelter is already full, Milton continues to urge Laura, as they must get there as soon as possible. Milton, using his special software to track the phone number, manages to locate Tyler at a playground after Laura reports that he is missing. It is revealed that Tyler is with Maddie, who is anxious and terrified due to her parents' absence. She has a strong need for assurance that Tyler will never leave her, like her father did. Another indication that the Day of Reckoning is near is the appearance of massive flocks of birds in the sky, accompanied by loud screeching. Everyone in the park rushes away in panic, and soon, the roads are filled with families trying to flee the city. When Dave hears the birds flying overhead, he decides to abandon his vehicle and continue the search on foot, as he is stuck in terrible traffic. When the gate officers hear strange sounds, they immediately inspect the system. An unexpected creature appears and starts attacking one of them. While the other troops open fire, Garrett manages to escape, but the creature seems unaffected by regular bullets. As emergency sirens begin to blare throughout the city, Dave finds Tyler and Maddie just in time. Laura and Milton have arrived, so the three of them manage to escape using Milton's car. The city descends into chaos, and only 1 hour remains before the eclipse is scheduled to occur. People try to flee the situation, causing traffic jams on every route. Cultists are seen walking among the vehicles, frightening drivers with painted faces and their belief that the apocalypse is near. The family stops for a long time and watches the cultists. Thanks to Milton's fast driving, the family reaches the shelter just as he sees an opening. There is also a lot of confusion there, with many people begging for entry, but the military states that only women and children are allowed inside. As Tyler lines up for the shelter, he changes his mind and returns to his father, saying he will never leave him, despite Dave instructing him to accompany Laura and Maddie inside the shelter. At that moment, the sign shows that the shelter is full, forcing the women accompanying him to step out of the line. Dave wants to go to Uncle Ted's hideout in the desert, but Milton suggests hiding at the school, as it is closer and has a basement. The group debates many available alternatives. Almost instantly, they get stuck in another traffic jam, forcing them to leave the vehicle right when an earthquake hits the area and the eclipse begins. As darkness covers the planet, the monsters begin to attack humanity. Just as they did 15 years ago, the monsters quickly take over the city and start slaughtering mercilessly. Dave believes they need to leave the city and wants to drive, but Milton gets furious since it is his car, and he's the one who knows how to save everyone. This causes an argument, and punches are exchanged. But the fight is cut short when a flying monster grabs Milton, and finally, he dies. Dave pushes Laura into the car as she screams, and then he takes control of the vehicle, so he finally manages to drive his family out of the city. As they travel along the canal, they reflect on whether the monsters are sent by God or not, and discuss various hypotheses about the origin of the creatures. Dave needs a new vehicle sometime later, because his car eventually runs out of fuel. When Dave stops next to a group of abandoned cars, he begins to investigate their interiors and finds dead bodies inside. The driver hiding in the back seat pulls him down as he reveals that a monster is approaching. Fortunately, as the monster approaches both of them, it fails to detect them and continues its path. He continues to search for more victims inside the cars. Dave carefully and quietly drives the vehicle back to Laura and the kids, just as the monster discovers one dead victim and starts devouring it. Now with both cars standing side by side, Laura and the kids try to move from one car to another, crossing between them. Even though the kids stay very quiet, the creature still senses their presence and chases them. After the old man exits the vehicle, he tries to stop the monster by spraying it with salt. However, this only temporarily halts the creature's movement, because it then attacks the man, and finally, he dies. While a horde of monsters approaches the city from every direction, the family takes advantage of this distraction and finally escapes the area. They use an abandoned route through the mountains. Ted's shelter, a bunker entirely made of concrete, is finally reached. The family starts shouting and pounding on the door to try to get in, but although the door is closed and there is a camera on the roof, no one comes out of the bunker. They do not realize that Ted is sitting in front of his computer watching them through the webcam, while someone points a gun at his head. At that moment, a pack of monsters appears in the mountains and begins running toward the safe place. Dave decides to defend his loved ones by grabbing a tire iron, while his family stays terrified. However, just as they are about to enter the bunker, the door finally opens and they rush inside. The family is shocked by the presence of Garrett, whom they meet together with Ted and his wife, Stella. Because his father was once a war comrade of Ted, Garrett comes here to seek help after being separated from his unit. Dave notices Garrett's possession of a firearm, which makes him suspicious. The group then eats together, but on the monitor, they cannot help but see the monsters trying to break down the door, causing everyone to feel anxious. Using the radio is useless because they only hear the cries of people inside. When Maddie asks about how the monsters see them, Garrett answers that they react to light and heat, but he wonders if they see human souls or not. He also tells a story of how he survived the first day of reckoning. At that time, he worked at an oil refinery, and when the monsters began to arrive, he managed to escape by diving into a pool of salty mud. After burying himself, he was forced to listen as the monsters slaughtered all his friends and coworkers. Ted signals Dave to take and hide a knife while Garrett is busy with his story. At the same time, Ted does not notice that a centipede-like creature crawls through a small hole in the mesh covering the window. After that, Garrett announces that he will take the first watch. Ted, who stares at Dave meaningfully, urges the others to stay and play cards instead of sleeping. When Stella offers him alcohol, Garrett grows suspicious of their behavior, so he draws his gun and orders Dave to drop his knife. After surviving the first time, he is now determined to survive again, whatever the cost. Garrett only pushes Tyler away from him when he suddenly lunges at him in an attempt to steal the gun. This causes the argument to continue, but Maddie ends the fight by pointing out that they can no longer hear the monsters. Then, the centipede-like creature emerges from behind the wall and bites Stella. Dave punches Garrett to take his gun and then tries to shoot the creature, while Ted attacks the monster by ripping it from his wife's neck and then sprinkling it with salt. However, Maddie manages to kill the small creature with a knife, even though it dodges all bullets, and finally, it dies. After that, they try to stop Stella's bleeding and tie Garrett up, but they need extensive medical care to succeed. At the same time, they see a beast continuously pounding on the front door, trying to break in. Dave suggests they leave, but Ted insists they must not go outside because he's sure his wife will not survive outside the bunker. There is an underground tunnel below the bunker that connects to the mountains, and Stella urges them to go there. After Garrett explains why it would benefit everyone if he helps them, the group is unsure whether to trust him when he claims he has a vehicle with a full tank and could transport everyone to the gate. They conclude that they must escape, but before they do, Ted reveals he has a large arsenal, and everyone arms themselves. Dave opens the entrance and kills the first beast that comes through the door before joining the others. After securing the bunker, they exit and observe Stella struggling to walk because her transformation into a beast continues. After some time passes, they head to a road where Tyler sees a creature standing there. Maddie tries to touch the creature, but Tyler stops her because it seems already dead. Suddenly, a long tentacle emerges from a hole in the ground and grabs her leg, trying to drag her away. Maddie screams in panic while Tyler and Dave hold her, so Laura shoots the tentacle to make it release her. After Maddie is freed, the group flees, and Garrett persuades Dave to untie him so he can help in case of another attack. What the others do not realize is that Dave hides an injury on his arm. They arrive at the mountain peak later and discover that the city is burning. When they finally find Garrett's vehicle, they are completely disappointed because his car will not start. Garrett makes a final attempt to restart his engine as monsters appear on the mountain peak and begin approaching them. Meanwhile, Stella steals Ted's gun in an attempt to end things for herself before she completes her transformation. Ted immediately engages in negotiation with Stella until she drops the gun and he asks her to get into the vehicle. However, Dave pulls Ted back, realizing there is little chance of success. Stella patiently waits for the arrival of the monsters that soon devour her, and finally, she dies. In the end, Garrett manages to start the car, and they escape, leaving the monsters behind. They intercept a radio transmission along the way and learn that almost all shelters have been destroyed because they cannot withstand the attacks. As time passes, they proceed toward the gate, but no one answers the radio, and its door is slightly open. After carefully entering, they find there is no power. Garrett and Dave decide to restore the electricity, while the others, who notice Ted's wound on his back, search for a first aid kit. Garrett says the gate is prepared for a second attack, and tons of salt water have been stored, but the tank is too deep. While the others treat Ted, Dave works to restore the power. Soon after the power returns, Dave and Garrett begin to walk back. However, Garrett suddenly feels blood dripping onto his hand, and when he looks up, he sees a monster growling in the dark. Garrett suggests hiding in the chemical storage because its door is blast-proof, and both men return to the group to debate their options, as only 2 hours remain before the eclipse ends. Garrett is attacked by a monster as soon as they exit the medical facility, and he and Dave struggle to fend off the creature. The noise they make attracts more monsters, although they manage to defeat the beast. Out of fear, Garrett runs to a door and closes it behind him, leaving everyone else behind. He then injects himself to start reversing his metamorphosis. When Dave leads his family to a different room, he discovers that the tank is on the opposite side of the wall, where salt residue is found. Therefore, he makes a plan. He will channel the salt water through the tank's pipes to prevent monsters from entering. At that moment, the door breaks down, forcing the family to flee. Dave crawls through the ventilation system when he sees a monster in a room devouring its victim. He tries to remain calm as he approaches the tank and opens the valve, causing water to start flowing into the container. After that, Dave crawls back up, but the monster detects him and begins chasing him, grabbing his leg in the process. Dave's counterattack is to sprinkle the creature with salt, which ultimately causes it to turn into dust and die. At the same time, the remaining people realize they are surrounded by monsters, and Tyler starts shooting at them. A loudspeaker suddenly plays Dave's voice, asking them to activate the fire alarm. Dave's voice is heard by everyone, so before charging at the monsters with an axe, Ted begs Tyler to protect his family. However, several creatures attack him at once, and finally he dies. The monsters keep coming closer, and as Tyler continues shooting, he eventually runs out of ammo. As a solution, he activates the fire alarm, which causes salt water to pour over all the monsters. This makes the creatures explode into dust while screaming in pain, and finally, they die. At that moment, the eclipse ends, and all the monsters begin using the gate to return to their world, triggering another earthquake. Garrett, who has gone mad due to the metamorphosis, is there as Laura and the kids try to start moving as well. He shoots Tyler and hits his shoulder, but before he can shoot again, Dave comes from behind and hits Garrett's head with a fire extinguisher. At the same time as Dave reunites with his family, a huge monster emerges from below, charges at Garrett, then swallows him whole, and finally, he dies. The family enters the medical section, where they mix a salty compound in a cylinder, then throw it at the monster just as it kicks the door, and finally, the creature dies. Day of Reckoning movie ends with the family finally stepping out of the building, and finally, they find that the entire world has been destroyed, but they are ready to begin the rebuilding process. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notification so you don't miss the latest recaps. Thanks for watching and wish you good health.